Hey, this is Jack Downs. I've got a little video for you about what we did in class today. A number of people were sick, so I'm sending this out to you. I'm going to show you some handouts, and there will be a couple handout or one handout attached also to the email you should look at too. And you can get them, including the rubric, in person from me next class. And I hope to see you next class. I hope everyone's feeling better and getting back on track. This is typically a time of year when it is tough, you know. There's a lot of viruses around, different kinds. People are getting sick. Classes are getting hard. Midterms have just happened. This is the time where you really got to make it through these presentations, even if you're a little late getting to them, in order that you can then sail down through the rest of the semester, because the semester will be speeding towards the finish of it now. We're really a lot closer than you think. So let me share my screen and say, let's look at Moodle, as we sometimes do. Look at the schedule, in other words, and please, I hope you look at the Moodle schedule regularly yourself. Today was Thursday the 20th, and we did do the informative introduction presentation, but not very many people went. So if you missed today, I strongly encourage you to reach out to the TAs to find a day to practice, like Friday, or remember, you can practice multiple times, practice perhaps on Monday, so that on Tuesday, when you come to class, you can do that presentation. We'll be doing makeup presentations on Tuesday. And if you have some older makeups too. So yes, that's what happened today. I suggested that you should be finishing the reading that is for exam number 2 and for study guide number 2. I assigned chapter 20, which in the older books is chapter 19. You should finish study guide 2. It is not due next class, but it'll be due a week from today. Study guide 2 will be due a week from today. And that means then we'll have another exam happening shortly after that, very soon after that, if you look at the schedule. In fact, the next exam, next class is going to be some content plus makeups. And the next Thursday, a week from today, we're going to be doing more content and perhaps some more makeups. Then on Tuesday, November 1st is the review for the exam, and Thursday, November 3rd, so it's a couple of weeks, is exam number 2. There's not that much gap between exam 1 and 2. Exam 2 is not quite as big, but there's some review of stuff too, and there's going to be a full class of preparing you for it, of reviewing for it, so make sure you're there for that. What else to say? So finish study guide 2 soon. And that maybe means you have to do all the reading for it also, and start some reading for number 3, which I'll be handing out next class. Should be starting study guide number 3, the final one. Starting study guide 3, well, we didn't hand it out yet, but I'll hand it out next class. But what is due next class is the informative presentation topic. Okay, so let me show you that handout which we had in class today. So hopefully very soon, like next class, you will finish and be on track. You'll finish the introduction. Remember, the informative introduction, is kind of a way to get into the idea of doing a full informative, but you only do the introduction. But you do the paperwork, all the paperwork is required. Okay, so do remember that although you're writing an SPS and a CT, you don't speak those. And although you have an outline which has index card like things on it, you're not holding the outline in front of you. You're still holding index cards. You're still using the three attention getting devices in the introduction, and you've labeled them in the paperwork you hand in, and you have them on your index cards. But the index cards, of course, are just the reminders, the blurbs, the outline type of stuff. And then you're still using the index card for the building to the topic, and for the sources, you name it, you have to use at least 2 sources in the introduction. And then for your signposted preview statement, those are in your index card. But your paperwork you present for this as if you did the whole presentation. The paperwork needs to be handed in person or on Moodle, roughly the same time that you do they get graded with the speech. So if I don't get the paperwork, that'll be a significant deduction for the speech. So get the paperwork in, do your best on it. It's a way to, not expecting perfection, but it's a way to get going on it. So what are we getting going on? We're getting going on the informative presentation, the full informative presentation. And for that, you need to, for next class, You need to come up with an idea. But unlike the introduction, where you could have come up with the idea from anything, which was harder in some ways, I think, I am specifying a very small, a very narrow subject area, in a way narrow. It's actually not that narrow. As it says here, your informative presentation must be on a topic related to linguistics, the study of language, in which there are hundreds of possible speech topics. Why am I doing this? Why am I making you do an informative presentation of something to do with language, study of language, linguistics, as a very general term? Well, the idea is I really want to push forward the idea of it being informative. And when you take on a topic that is in an area that you maybe don't know a huge amount about, and so a topic like linguistics, the study of language, you are learning about it. You have ideas, but you don't have so many opinions, really. So there's less likely it becomes persuasive, which is one of the great problems, is you set out to do an informative presentation and it turns into a persuasion, right? We want to make sure this is informative. So you are learning something and then you are teaching it to us. You are informing us. So what do I mean do it on a topic related to linguistics? Well, you can read this paragraph here about brainstorming. We did spend a lot of time brainstorming in class today, which is too bad you missed. But what did we talk about? For instance, so I had the TAs brainstorm about this. You could do anything about handwriting, about maybe handwriting, identifying handwriting, like the way that criminologists do, like for finding forgers and stuff. Or you could do on the benefits of learning cursive. Cursive writing is kind of handwriting, or many other handwriting things, parts of handwriting. You could do it on, what about sign language? There's like the types of sign language common in the United States, types of sign language common in the world, development of sign language. I'll take one type of sign language and try to learn parts of it to show us how emotions are expressed in sign language, for instance. Sign language, all kinds of things you can do with sign language. What about learning language? Like you could do how babies learn language, like extremely early childhood language development. You could do benefits of learning a second language. You could do what are the hardest second languages to learn and why, if you're an English speaker to begin with, for instance. You could do what about what's the difference in the benefits of being either bilingual or multilingual? On and on about different languages. How about alphabets? There's lots of different kinds of alphabets. You could describe 3 common types of alphabets or something. You could show us examples of them. You could talk about their development. You talk about the development of the English alphabet and how it's changed over time, where it came from, and so on. How about dictionaries? You could do all kinds of things about dictionaries. How about, in each case, you wouldn't do a presentation on dictionaries just as a general topic. You'd have to get more focused, right? So each of these have to be a focused topic. And then parts of words, how words change, dying languages. How about languages that were close to dying or pretty much died out, but then been revived? Like Hebrew was an example that was given in class, or the Hawaiian native languages were near death and have been revived in the process that they're trying to rebuild those languages and use of them and so on. The value in dead languages like Latin, perhaps. So language and social groups. How about slang? Speech patterns and problems, like, well, what about stuttering and methods to treat it, or maybe famous people in history that were stutterers, or on and on. You can look at historical things, you can take small groups, you can take different parts of the world. So much to talk about with languages. And there's many different fields of languages, language and social justice, language acquisition, on and on. So you start brainstorming this, find a topic, make sure it's focused enough. Then you have to write the SPS to inform my audience about the 3 major types of sign language in the United States. Then you have to write, and you have to label it: concept, object, process, event. Then you have to write the CT. The 3 major forms of sign language in the United States are, and then list them whatever the heck they are. I think there's 3. You'd have to look that up. You have to do some research on this. That research is going to, of course, be mostly online. I might go to the library and ask a reference librarian for help. They're very helpful. They help you there. Or one little extra thing you have, you may not realize, is down in 114 in the shelf with our stuff is our number of linguistics textbooks there. You can look through those. I think probably use all three of those methods would be great. Okay, so I mentioned CT. Remember the CT, you have to set that organizational pattern: topical, chronological, spatial, causal. That's the last one, right? All right, so yes, it's an idea. It's a little bit fleshed out because you write those two things. It's not very much writing. You can submit it on Moodle or bring it on paper, and it's due next class. What about the rest of the stuff here? You certainly can read about this. You can see what kind of other paperwork you have to produce when it is due. You're not going to be giving the presentation for a little while, but it's not that far away. November 8th, if you want to do it November 8th, you get extra credit, which is a little bit early. November 10th. So we only going to have a couple of weeks to get this together. So you'll have to get together soon. And November 10th is when it is actually due. And I hope you can get on track. One last thing. I told everybody, if you look in the schedule, you're going to see that there was listed another presentation. There's this, you hopefully on Tuesday catch up and do the introduction presentation. This is the full informant presentation. Your last presentation will be the full persuasive presentation. Theoretically now, those are the only other two major presentations that are left to do. There was listed there, well, it's still listed, a optional presentation, I'm calling it now. Now it's going to be made optional, which is called reading from manuscript, where you essentially read, but you're not really reading, you're kind of speaking a piece of poetry. That's still there for people who want to do it. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to use examples of that and so on. You're going to hear about it. You don't have to do it because I know that it's been a tough semester with many people being sick. So I'm pulling that out of the requirements, but it's still there as an option for people too. All right. Hey, I hope this all makes sense to you. And I hope to see you next class. And I better, before I start saying things like that, I got to stop my share and stop my recording.